again, welcome and good evening, and thank you for coming to our little session here. My name is Jennifer Vessels, and this is one of my favorite topics. I am an industry veteran in and around the technology industry and have done just about every aspect of selling, marketing, and helping to grow teams in the technology business. And back in the mid-90s, worked for a company called Ungerman Bass, that some of you may be familiar with, and had the opportunity with Ungerman Bass, or as we knew it, UB, to go to Europe and implement a new sales and marketing strategy in Europe that led to being honored to live in Oslo, Norway for about 3 years and helping to launch Tonberg in the US, which Tonberg, many of you may know, is now a Cisco company. And came back to the Silicon Valley in '97, and based upon, honestly, networks and contacts and just enjoying people and staying in touch, built a consulting company called Next Step. And since '97, we have worked with many, many companies, many, many individuals, and organizations ranging from Cisco to Adobe to Lenovo to two guys and a great idea, to help them get their business idea into the market and grow their revenue. And many times a lot of what we do is helping people within organizations really understand how to network, how to connect, how to build relationships, how to build partnerships to grow not only their company, but their careers. So before we dive into some of what I have here, a couple of questions. One is, how many people are here to learn how to network in order to possibly move into a different job or a different company, a new field, something new? Okay. And can we assume the rest are here to network to increase the business opportunities, career in your current position? You're not. Okay. Didn't think there was anything in between that, so that's good. The other logistical question, if I walk away from this, can you all hear me without a microphone? Good. I figure that's the one good thing of having a very loud voice that everyone hears across airports and planes, is I don't need microphones in events like this, so that's good. So you're here to learn ideas, techniques, topics, things that you can use in networking, both for your career, internally and externally. And one of the things I would suggest as we come together here at the beginning of 2012, to some degree, networking is even more important now than ever, but also it's even more challenging now than ever. Anybody have an idea why? It's more challenging. Why is it more challenging?
More choices, more options?
Yeah, there's more choices and more options for each of us in directions to go. There's a lot of new ideas, new programs, new companies, new ways of moving forward. And for the people with whom we are networking, there's also, and this is the slide that at least 3 people have warned me is going to do this, so we bring it back. There's also more choices for the people with whom you're networking to talk to more people. In essence, it's harder to get mind share today. If you know you want to go meet Joe Smith because he's a vice president at HP and you want to work for HP, you can probably estimate that not only you, but a good 100 or 1,000 other people also want to meet Joe Smith. So he's probably getting emails from people about how great they are. He's probably getting Facebook messages. He's getting phone calls, he's getting text messages. So you have more choice, but the people you want to reach also have more choices, and there's more people clamoring to get to them. So networking today, very important, but also very challenging, and important that you really focus and make sure you're trying to get to the people that are the most important for you to get to. Don't waste all your energy on Joe Smith if you really need to meet Adam Brown over here at Agilent. So determining who you want to meet, how you want to introduce yourself to them, and how you're going to interface to get their attention, even more critical today than ever. One thing that hasn't really changed from the studies that we look at within Next Step of just human behavior is that the importance of the human relationships on career success has remained the same. Anybody want to guess what percentage of a person's career success comes, based on studies, as a result of their technical skills? I.e. being a good accountant, being a really good engineer, knowing how to sell. That would be technical skills.
Less than 50.
Less than 50, you're on the right track, yeah. Anybody want to bid lower than that or higher? Yeah.
5 to 10%.
5 to 10, 40 to 50? Any other bids?
25.
You're closest in the back, you're closest. 15% of career success is based on technical skills. What you know. 85% is based on your people skills, which is who you know. It also is how you interface with them. What kind of a relationship do you have with them? It's one thing to network and go out and meet a lot of people. And we've all been to those events where we see somebody that's what I would call the business card dealer. Hi, I'm Jennifer, here's my card. Hi, good to meet you. Hi, I'm Jennifer, here's my card. That's not building relationships. That's being rude to people, in my opinion. Whereas building relationships, you go into a networking event and you genuinely figure out who you want to meet. You have a dialogue. You get to know that person. You ask that person how you can help them. You maybe set an opportunity to follow up with them. That's building a relationship, which is using those people skills that is ultimately the foundation, long-term, of career success. So that's what we're going to work on tonight, is how do you hone in on the people that you want to meet? How do you communicate who you are and why they should listen to you as a way of building a foundation and a relationship? And then how do you follow up on that relationship so that it really becomes a genuine connection and a relationship, not just a, I got his card. Question in the back?
Yes, good evening, ma'am. I'm just wondering if I should take some notes, or you're going to make the presentation online later?
Very, very good question. The presentation will be on the GABA website, and if anybody wants to give me a card, you know, more than welcome to get you some additional notes behind. And thank you for reminding me to point out that one of the things we have in the front is a bowl with a little sign, a bowl for business cards. Since this is our first event of the year, we are going to draw somebody out of that bowl to actually receive a half-hour coaching session on networking. So at some point during the event, we'll pass the bowl around, make sure your card's in it, we'll do that as well as a follow-up to this. Yeah.
There will be a video of the event on the website at some point. Also.
Perfect. Great. So how do we do this successful networking to build these relationships that are so valuable? First point is you got to understand yourself. Figure out what you want. Do you want to move into a new role in your company? And what does that look like? And what skills is that going to require? And who do you need to know to do that? Do you want to move into a new company? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to grow the revenue and the customers in the business you already have? So before you go out talking to a lot of people and networking, understand inside who you are. Because ultimately, a part of successful networking is a way of communicating that brand of you. So understanding what that brand is and the skills and the competencies and the uniqueness that you bring is important. And your networking is simply a way of building trust and credibility and communicating that. The first step of which is really defining your goal. Do I want a new job? Do I want more customers? Do I want to go into a new business? Figure out why you're networking. So consider step one as why. Why do this? Shouldn't just be because your career coach told you you need to go to events. That's never going to pay off. Figure out why you need to go. Then figure out what events you need to go to based upon who you need to meet. In sales terms, we call this the target audience. Who are the people that might employ you, might introduce you, might buy your service? So why, and then who, and then you get to what. What is it you're going to say? That's what we would call the value proposition, or the good old term of the elevator speech. What you're going to communicate when you're at that event and somebody comes up and says, "Hi, I'm Jennifer, who are you?" And you need to come back with a response. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to spend a little bit of time practicing on that. And then how you do all of this is you network, you get out and you meet people, you follow up with them, you build relationships, because the follow-up many times is equally as important as going to the event. So we'll talk about how do you really build that plan for follow-up, because that's going to be that long-term business relationship and that career success from having people around you. So we all cool with the concept here? If you have questions, just wave me down as we go through. So let's start with understanding and thinking about how do you understand you and your unique value. Because your unique value and what you bring to that new job, that new manager, your new clients you want to bring in, that's going to be the foundation of what we call the value prop or the elevator speech. And I'm sure anybody that's gone through career coaches, and it looks like we've got some people in the room that have probably gone through those exercises where you write down your skills and your competencies and all that. You people have done that. That's one way of looking at it. And that's understanding kind of what do you bring to the table. I would suggest to really stand out in today's world with all the communication and all the people trying to get to your buyer, if you will. It might be an interesting idea to kind of look at it the other way around and think about what is that target audience? Who do you want to employ you? What is the department or company that you want to be in? What are the kinds of customers that you want to sell to? And start by thinking about it from the point of view of what are their needs. What are the problems they're trying to solve? Because in essence, when you're networking and looking for a new career opportunity, it's kind of like you're selling. And in my opinion, sales is not a bad thing. I think for some people, sales is like, oh my God, I can't do that. Sales is putting forth something that is valuable and offering it to someone else. So if you're selling yourself, and you know you're skilled, and you know you have capabilities and all that good stuff, you got to think about why would someone in HP, or why would this software engineering company, why would they employ me? What is it that I bring that solves a problem that they're experiencing? Anybody ever thought of it that way? Few people have? So when you think of it that way, your first question is, what are the problems that my target company is facing? If, let's say I was looking for a new marketing job in HP, I would probably look at everything that's been in the press about HP and say, they probably need a little bit of help on branding and reputation, especially around the PC industry. They probably need some new messaging that may go out to their partners and people that have been skeptical about them. And they probably need some new lead generation to get some new energy. Do I have the skills to do that? And how can I package those skills to solve that problem? I'm going to pick on Helmut here for a second, just because he and I have known each other for quite a few years through GABA. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Helmut, but you position yourself as a productivity coach, right?
Yeah.
So that's a nice fancy term. What problems would you say you solve in your customer accounts?
They would just say, oh, we have enough money, we know everything, we don't need any help, something like that. Because I tell them also, yeah, when I work value added. Yeah, when I show you something to improve this way, that way, yeah. But everybody knows everything, huh? It depends. Even startups, when they have good money, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. No, yeah.
But why do they hire you?
Not hiring me, it's just a little project for 1 week or 2 months,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, just, I tell them, yeah, just let me look for half a day on all the stuff you have, something like that. Of course, I sign an NDA first. And then, yeah, okay, I can help something, I have some ideas, or no, it looks
Yeah.
good, okay, it's done,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go in when they have some questions of, do we have a problem?
Mhm.
Is there something that we're missing? So I'm adding a few words around this to say that potentially for Helmut, the customer need, or the target audience need, is an outside perspective to see where there's issues that could help increase their productivity. So he brings an outside perspective. And that's where we're starting to get into and bring this up. So the capabilities are outside, experienced, knowledge of how to get to a problem and make people more productive that are applied to the buyer's needs. And you probably you do that better than all the other productivity coaches out there, right? Because that's part of the value proposition, is what is the problem you're solving, how do you solve it, and what makes you different than all of the other potential marketing people for HP, productivity coaches, engineers for the software company. What makes you unique? And that's really kind of that intersection of what is your unique value. Understanding how you solve potential customer or potential employer's problems different than everybody else, and being able to put that into a concise statement, that's what can help you cut through all of that noise that's coming at your target audience. Inside of all the messages coming at these people, if you can be very clear and very targeted, Helmut, can come in and help you see issues that are going to prevent your company from being successful. I do that quickly, and I've got a proven process to do that, and I have testimonials that show I've done this for other companies. Let me come in for a half a day, review what you've got, and give you a report. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You're going to help me see and avoid obstacles, and you've got a way to do that. Does that make sense? So the first step in coming up with this, and in fact coming up with your elevator speech, which is that concise statement all of this is rolling into, is you got to understand what's going on for your target audience. Okay, to define your goal. What kind of company do you want to get into? What kind of department do you want to move to? What kind of customers do you want to sell to? And what are their problems? Because you're going to need to turn your elevator speech around to address their problems. And these are just some of the things that we would suggest in defining your target audience and that problem you're solving. You look at what's going on in their industry. Is it going up? Is it going down? Are they getting regulatory pressure? Is time to market a critical factor based on what their competitors are doing? How are they performing today? In today's world, it's extremely easy to get high-quality research data on just about every company out there. Public, private, it doesn't matter. And if you're going in to meet with somebody for a job interview, or you hope to run into them at that networking event, do your research before you get to the interview or the networking event. It's always amazing to me the amount of job hunters that will come up to me at an event and say, well, you know, I'm really interested in going into consulting and I'd like to work for Next Step. Oh, great. You know, what do you think you could do for us? Well, tell me what you all do exactly again. That credibility thing just went completely down the toilet. Whereas literally, in fact, I talked to a gentleman today who we're looking at bringing in for a contract role for us. I talked to 3 people back to back and had gone back and forth on email, had resumes of all 3. Third one I talked to. And I said, I apologize, I'm calling a little bit later than I planned at 3 o'clock. You know, it's a busy day, a lot going on. You know what he says? He says, well, I know it's a busy day for you because you're speaking at the GABA event tonight. So, oh, how did you know that? Well, I've been on your website and really researched, and I understand that you're a co-chair on the HR SIG with GABA. He had gone to our site, read just about everything on the site, found the event, then gone to the GABA site and researched what GABA was. He's coming in for an interview on Monday. Do your research. Understand what's happening in your target company's industry, themselves, and their competitors, because that's part of how you're going to help them. You're going to help them beat their competitors, because you're a great marketing manager that's going to get faster time to market, get rid of that bad publicity about PCs or not PCs, or whatever it is you're going to do. So understand that, do your research, and then you're ready to build your elevator speech. I'm sure you all know why it's called, in English at least, an elevator speech. Anybody want to volunteer?
Yeah, it's supposed to be so short that you could do it as an elevator goes up the building.
Exactly. To be able to do it in an elevator going 2 or 3 floors, hopefully. We've heard some people that it would take about 100 floors in order for them to get it out. And there's all kinds of iterations of it needs to be 30 seconds, it needs to be 1 minute. It really needs to be the appropriate amount of time to create interest and spark a follow-on conversation. In reality, you're probably not going to close your desired hiring manager on an interview in an elevator. You're probably not going to sell your services as a consultant in an elevator. Or honestly, at a networking event, where you're just meeting the person for the first time. But what you're going to do, and the goal of this elevator speech, is you're going to spark enough interest so that when the person steps off the elevator and they hold the door to keep it from closing, you've got an opportunity to follow up. That's really your goal. For that person to say, that's interesting, this is my floor, here's my card, call me tomorrow to schedule a time to get together. That's genuinely the purpose. So what you need to do in that 30 seconds to a minute is, first of all, introduce who you are. Second of all, set the stage for the kinds of problems you solve. And those kinds of problems should be problems related to, similar to, relevant to the person you're talking to. Consistent with the kinds of problems his or her company are experiencing that you've researched. So you relate it to the problem, then share the value. What do you do? And how can you solve that problem? And how do you do that differently than anyone else? Provided testimonials as credibility, and then asking, can we follow up at another time? Make sense? Piece of cake, right? So let me endeavor to try an example. If we were meeting for the first time, let's say it's a potential client for Next Step, and that could be really any size company that's struggling to grow. I mean, I might start out with something like, hi, I'm Jennifer Vessels with Next Step. We work with companies struggling to grow that have hit a plateau. We bring a range of skills in sales, market targeting, as well as channel development to help companies scale their revenue. We uniquely mix those skills, marketing, sales, and channel, to ensure full results for our clients. For example, as Adobe introduced their Creative Suite product line in the midst of a recession, we revamped their go-to-market strategy to target new decision makers, built new tools for the channel, and provided training. That led to 25% increase in CS sales within 3 months. If you would like to look at new approaches to your market, can we get together next week? I don't know if that's 30 seconds, somewhere in that range. But setting out who you are, the kind of problem you solve that is relevant, how you solve it, not down in the detail of we come in and we do an assessment and we spend 5 hours here and 10 hours there and then we write this report. They don't care about that. They care about at a high level, do you have a process for doing this? Do you have experience in doing this? Do you have an example or a success story or credibility statement with doing this? And then you go for the call to action. Piece of cake, right? Yes.
I think the hardest part is the validation, because sometimes you come across as a braggart or just going on a bit about yourself. And so I wonder if you can elaborate there. I find that validating to be a very difficult area.
That's an understandable point. And I think the important thing there is if you look at it kind of twofold. It's not you saying, hey, I'm good, but you saying the service I provide is good. And if you have good references from your clients, which I'm sure you do, clients or previous bosses, managers, things that have been on your performance review, just to simply quote those. I mean, you could say, let me take my example. If I wanted to take it out of our team did this, I could say our team was called in to Adobe by the director of sales. She said at the end of our project that their team had experienced 25% improvement in revenue as a direct result. So you can put the words back to the other person. That's one way of handling that. There's nothing wrong in taking pride in what you do, though. There's absolutely nothing wrong in taking pride.
Well, I just was talking to someone, she was meeting someone, and he kept going on about how great he is. And I thought, that's fantastic. It didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
But it really bothered her. And she's a CEO, and she thought it was, bragging wouldn't be the right word, but so it's a very delicate area, I find. And
Yeah, I would look at that as possibly the how you do it. So if you give a very short, succinct, this is what I did, and this was the results that the company saw. So you're putting it back on the company. I did X, Y, and Z. The results were A, B, and C. As opposed to, I'm great and I do things well. And if you can get those results to be tangible, so it's not just subjective of, I did a good job. It's, here's what I did, and we saw a 5% improvement in time to market, a 2% improvement in productivity across the company. The person I worked with attributed the improvement in time to market to what I did. And sometimes from an employee point of view, those things may be in your performance reviews. They may be in comments from your managers. And I think many times we as human beings tend to be more humble about our accomplishments than the people we interface with. So if you're kind of wondering about that, one thing I'd suggest is call up a few of your past clients or managers and ask them. When I worked for you back 5 years ago, what do you think I actually contributed to, and how would you quantify the results that I achieved? What do you think is the greatest thing that I brought to your organization? You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised, and the amount of people that say, yes, of course you can quote me on that. Virginia.
I'm thinking that sometimes it's a cultural thing as well, because I think it's okay in the States to talk about yourself and be proud about what you did and talk about it, but in Germany it's not that common, or at
Yeah.
least not yet. And I actually read a little spiel that a friend of mine put on a website about herself, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really putting on thing. And then I talked to her, and she goes like, Regina, this is the States, pump it up. And I'm like, oh my God, I had never thought about it that way. So,
That is true.
I mean, we are, this is
Yes. Yeah. And you're competing here in the States. I mean, that's
different.
I also would just simply say it's a question of your own confidence, how confident you are in your own work. And I mean, if you do a good job and you hear from colleagues that you absolutely do a good job, well, then go and state it.
Yeah.
You can back it up. It's like, and I don't even think it's putting but I did
No,
it.
I mean, it was all correct, but the way it was written is like, wow.
Well, okay,
you know.
it depends on the words how you use it. I'll
But
give
it
you
was
that.
good, it's good,
Yeah.
you know, I
But
learned from
I
that.
have a colleague who, like, every other time, like, writes things like, perfect, you rock. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be confident in what I do and tell you what I do, how good I do it? And it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's a question of confidence if it comes down
Yeah.
to, if you're confident enough and you know you can back it up, well, then you can make that statement.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't back it up, well, then you're in trouble. But-
yeah, that's a different topic.
Right, exactly, but I mean,
Yeah.
in your question, everything that you would be quoting there of your own work,
Yeah.
you can back it up, so might as well tell them what you're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. Is there a question in the back? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm at a networking event, and I want to boast what I'm doing. And I've done my research. I see that HP is having a problem marketing their PC. Now, basically, I need to start off this conversation with, the way you market PC sucks.
No. Not a good idea.
That's clearly the wrong approach, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
How do I open up the conversation and talk about what I do?
yeah, so, and of course, everything is situational context, right? But in general, in that kind of a situation, I mean, introduce yourself, possibly very gently on such a sensitive topic is, I have gone into organizations when they were in a period of potentially bad publicity and made a real difference in their messaging. I believe I could have an impact based upon what I've seen in the press recently about HP and the PC business. Would you be open to a conversation about that? you don't want to insult the person that's your target audience. You know, we often say you don't want to tell the mother that her baby is really ugly. Same way you don't want to tell your decision maker that his company really sucks in one area. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it focused on, I have experience solving problems like this. Here's an example. Can we have a conversation? Let's take about 5 minutes, and everybody that doesn't have a pad or a pencil or a something to thumb into, there's some pads I think out in the front, but have everybody write down in whatever form factor you want to write down what you think based on this framework the elements of your elevator speech would be. So easy part is you know your name, and if you're in consulting, you know your company. Think about somebody that you want to get in touch with, either for business or a new job, and think about the problem you would solve for them, the value that you bring, how you solve that differently than others, and a simple proof point. Make some notes, and then we'll have a few people share with us, a few volunteers. Easier to do it in this setting than when you're actually in front of VCs or decision makers or employers tomorrow. Volunteer to do a trial run. Okay, thank you.
There's always somebody.
Excellent.
Somebody has to do it, right?
Yep, there we go.
Well, I heard that this company wanted to expand in international markets.
Mm-hmm.
So being knowledgeable about international markets and being within the industry
Excuse me.
segment of this
Could you
company.
get in front of the group? I just, even here, I can't hear very well.
Ah.
I'm sure that,
Hey, do you mind to stand and kind of
Oh.
turn?
And being knowledgeable about the products of this company, or being in the same industry segment of the company, I thought I had a good opportunity to make my point to this, executive vice president of the company. So I introduced myself, and I thought, and I give
Pretend like I'm the vice president. So I'm your vice president here.
Oh, Vice President.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? My name is Eugene Mirabelli, and I heard that you are looking into expanding in the international market, and I think I have what you need to make it happen.
What I need? How do you know what I need?
Well, to expand in the international market with your product
Okay.
line, because I'm familiar with your product line, and so I think I know the way how to do this, because usually they don't do that. They don't know,
Okay.
the people up there, they only know about this thing, the backyard, they call it.
Right.
They only know outside, So I said, I have the knowledge
Okay.
and I have the experience because I've done it before.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
So, and then what I did, he said, well, tell me all about it, So we sit down, we relax, and I say, well, first of all, I'm gonna tell him about what the opportunities, the advantages of going international, tax
All right.
fee, whatever. And then I'm going to, and you're going to ask me, you say, how do you just do that? Well, you have to set up your channels. You have to set up your the methodology for how to expand in Europe, and you briefly mention, just briefly mention how would you like to do it, what you have done in the past, that
Right.
being already successful. And then you say, well, what do you expect? What kind of result do you expect that this is going to happen? So you do. You give them what you think is gonna, expected result is gonna be of
Okay.
expanding an international market. And then, would say, well, do you think I have a chance because there's a lot of other competitors?
Right.
And I said, yeah, of course you do, because your products are unique and so forth.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get into the,
Yeah, yeah.
go into the, just
Mhm.
tiny details. Then to the point where they say, you know, so then you got in his interest.
Mhm.
You got interested in the art and said, well, let's talk about it in
Right.
details. Well, okay, let's do it.
Schedule a meeting.
Yeah. let's get it in.
Excellent, excellent. So I think there's a lot of good content in there. I would say that's a long elevator ride. To take the content though, I mean, what I picked out is you would introduce yourself, recognize that I help companies expand internationally. Many times they hit a wall because they don't know the local cultures.
Exactly.
I've researched your company, I'm very interested in your company. I have a proven process with channels and markets.
Yes.
I've done this with other companies, and I would like a time that we can have a further discussion on how I can help you increase your revenue 20% or reduce the time to revenue in this market.
And above all, profits.
Right, right. So getting it down to a concise level. Let's do this. Let's take about 5 minutes here and have everybody turn to someone around them. And if you want to do 3 people or 2 people, I don't know, let's not get too hung up on the logistics. But turn to someone around you and practice your elevator speech with your partner. We have there was one interesting aha that was a question, but a very observant question from the back of the room. And that is this topic of the problem you solve and how you solve it. Those are 2 sides of the coin.
Right.
So if the problem we solve is helping companies scale and grow their revenue, we solve it through revenue sales improvement programs. Because you want to be able in that elevator speech to tie into the problem that person you're talking to is having, and then quickly say, here's how I solve it. Then you jump to your credibility statement. Had a couple of questions that came up in the dialogue. And one was for people that like to be interactive and engaging, which is a good thing. Is there a way to actually start the elevator speech with a question? To bring the person into the conversation? And the answer is yes. Use an example of one of our colleagues, gentleman that does training and workshops and has written books on how to do software demos. Most of us here in the Valley have seen a lot of software demos in our life. So he can pretty easily go up to just about anybody at any event. And when they say, hi, I'm Jennifer, and look at his name, he says, hi, I'm Peter Cohen. Have you ever seen a bad software demo? And everybody will typically say, yeah. He solves that problem. So it's a perfect lead-in. Have you ever seen a bad software demo? Yes. I prevent people from that torture. I teach salespeople, SEs, managers, how to do good demos. If your company's in the software business, call me. I can help your people do a better demo. That's a very specific point situation. But when you think about who you want to sell to, your target audience, and you think about how you're going to solve their problem, one way to do it is look at what is the question that they would identify with. So not to overly pick on HP, but since we kind of started, is there anybody here from HP? Sorry.
It's okay. not a problem.
a
I'm quite
great
used to
company
it.
that we genuinely want to help. But it might be interesting as people meet you to say, have you been in that situation where everybody is picking on your company? Yes. I can help that through messaging, crisis prevention, whatever it is.
Improve your image.
Improve your image. Understanding where that person's coming from and having that question that really hits home, so they identify and say, yeah, I do have that problem. You've progressed yourself further in that process. Another really good couple of questions from the back of the room, and help me here if I misinterpret, but one part was, is this whole networking and elevator speech different if you're going into a public company or going up in a public company versus private? And the answer is no. People are people, and people are busy, and they're getting 100 people asking them for things, and you've got to be equally crisp and to the point. The type of problem is probably going to be different. The type of solution is probably going to be different, but the process is the same. And the other very good question, and if anybody's gone through this themselves, I'd be open to you sharing as well, is how does this process of networking and an elevator speech fit in if you're interviewing for, networking for a position in an MBA program or another university? And again, the problem and the solution is different, but I think the process is similar. So when you go for that interview or you meet that dean, you got to stand out. And you can stand out by being articulate, your name, why you want into the program. This program is important to me because I can contribute value through my excellent skills in math, my research expertise, and can really leverage what I learn in the program to change the world. Help them to see how you're going to use the learning to make a real difference, which will get their message and their brand out, as well as why it's important to you, that you've done your research and you're not just applying here because you couldn't get into Stanford. So making it real. And that's back to that building a relationship. I'm genuinely here because I care and I want to be part of this, and I'm going to make something better from it. Any other comments, questions, ahas that came up? Yeah.
Well, right away, having you been right there was the question of the problem. And was it his problem, or is it a group problem, or is it a life Silicon Valley problem? It's just deciding, because some people really feel you're invading their privacy if you're too, into their problem, if you know what I mean. So what if you
Yeah.
comment on how to direct that?
Yeah, that's, and again, every situation is different, but typically, if you've researched the company and you feel pretty confident, you've talked to people around this person that there is such a problem in the company, I mean, it's fair to say, we work with companies, or I work with companies that are experiencing this issue. From what I have seen in the market, you may be experiencing this. That's a fine line between being assumptive and being ignorant. Because you don't want to assume too much. I mean, for example, with HP, we're assuming way too much here, and we're probably insulting you. So you want to balance that line. As far as the person, unless you know that person previously, I wouldn't get so much into, I know you have a problem. You don't want to go there. But the company, the industry, the market, where the company is with their competitors, that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I would approach it, I know that some of your competitors have established the same problem, and you have this kind of problem.
Right.
You experience this in your company.
Yeah,
And you would say, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Or no, then.
yeah. And that gives you credibility to say, we have worked with other legal firms, or we have worked with many software companies at 2 million in revenue and have experienced. Are you experiencing that? Here's how we've solved those other problems. Yeah.
I think that has to be done very carefully because the problem is a negative aspect of the business, and somebody you just meeting, expressing, that you know their problem. I would find it very difficult to
Yeah.
absorb, somebody I just met, he's gonna come and tell me, okay, what my problem is, my
Yeah.
process and so forth. So, I think it would be much better to focus on the positive side. What can I bring to your business? What can I do for you?
Yeah.
And that might be overshadowing the problem.
Yeah, and problem is used loosely here. It could be, we know companies grow more effectively when they understand how to be more productive.
Correct.
Do you want to grow your business? So it really is situational dependent. And that's part of effective networking, is you really do situation, event, association by association. Prepare. Before you go into an event with SVAs or SV Forum or GABA, you actually, before that event, think about who's going to be there and prepare based on that. Here and then here.
I just want to mention that Stephanie had a good point about humor.
Yeah.
To bring in humor, like an event that went wrong and that you can both laugh about, or, it makes the situation much more relaxed.
It does. Humor is one of those that's either good or bad. And unless you know the person
Yeah, maybe.
or know of the person fairly well, that can be taken negatively. That would be the only thing I'd be careful. If you're seeing someone a second or a third time, and the last time you were together at an event, the lights all went out and nobody could find their way out, then yeah, absolutely. Great to see you again. Let's hope the lights stay on this time. How's business going for you? Absolutely. There was a wave in the back, yeah.
So how does it actually work if you go to an event where you don't know the target audience? For example, this event right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know who's going to be here, so how should I prepare?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, what I would suggest is, if somehow you got an invitation and you thought, hey, I'm open that night, they have good food, they have good wine, they have good pizza, I think I'll turn up. What I would suggest is A, you go to the website of the association or the person or whatever it is, and learn a little bit about what that association is about. Maybe you look for a few people on the website that are part of the association team. So maybe you saw Stephanie, you saw Caroline on the website, and you know that, when you walk in, hi Stephanie, I saw on the website you've got somebody to talk to. Doesn't hurt to call up the organizer in advance if you're truly going for the first time. To say, hey, I've never been to one of these events. What kind of people come? How do people dress? Do people arrive early? Do they stay late? Very valid questions to ask the organizer so you get a little better sense. You can go on to LinkedIn into the group for that association and see what people are part of that group on LinkedIn, for example. And maybe you know some of those people. Reach out to them and say, hey, are you going to this event tomorrow night? See what kind of discussions they're having. That can help you to at least have some background.
When you go after new business, have you found more luck with one person in an organization than another? The CEO is typically very busy. I would tend to go to the CEO, and even the CTO. But maybe you find much more luck with sales management or I don't know what.
That's a big $1 million question. Typically, if you're selling your services or even selling yourself as an employee, typically, the higher you go, the less time you're going to get, and the harder it's going to be to get to that person. But if you reach that person, chances are they're going to refer you down, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to get to the CTO if the CEO referred you than if the IT director referred you. So typically we say start high, things go down but it does take a lot longer. And it doesn't mean you can't go both ways, get to know this guy while trying to get up here. Good question, good question. So prepare as much as you can by understanding that target audience. Simple little trick, get to the event early. I mean, if you've already looked at who's members of this group, get to the event early. 90% of the time, all the name tags are laid out, right? So look through and see who you want to meet. And ask the organizer, hey Stephanie, I want to meet Sam. And I see he's here, he's from Agilent. And can you just tell me a little bit what he looks like? And would you mind if you see him come in introducing me to him? You'd say yeah, wouldn't you? Absolutely, absolutely. So just, that kind of helps to set the stage. So think about why you're going, think about who you want to meet, and customize your elevator speech around that. Yeah.
But don't you actually start out by looking up networking events that from the title or the industry are actually for you to begin with? I mean, this one here is a totally different environment because I would actually even consider this more a workshop, what you're doing, which is really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you can meet people, but it's not a networking event in
Yeah.
the classical definition.
Yeah.
Because I know GABA for a long time, and Stephanie can prove that she hasn't seen me for a long time. Reason being, most of the events are either I don't have a clue what they're talking about. It's like they might as well talk a foreign language. So what would it do me anyways good to go there? So I pick the ones where I have some value, but don't you do that from the get-go and then that question eliminates itself?
It really should, and you know, in choosing networking events, I would suggest your first objective is looking for where does your target audience go? If you want to sell your services or get a job working for a marketing manager, marketing managers probably go to American Marketing Association, Business Marketing Association events. That's where you want to go network. Or if there is a topic that is of particular interest and you want to meet other people that are interested in that topic, that's a good place to go to network.
But also never feel shy at any of the events to talk to the organizers, because if you give me your elevator speech, it's very likely that I've talked to a person right before that probably is in the same, working in the same area, and I would probably not know him personally, but just know that he does or she does this and that, and you know, that's kind of our job. So
Yeah.
that's very helpful, a helpful resource when you go to, at least for GABA I can say that, go to our events and when you talk to me or to my colleagues or to our volunteers, they would always, you know, refer you to somebody, and that's very helpful.
Yeah. And never underestimate the person that sits at the registration desk.
Right.
Because that person gets to know
He just
everybody.
solved a big problem for us. So.
Yeah. We in fact had an introduction into Hewlett-Packard 3 years ago, solely through the administrator for 2 of the associations that we participate heavily in. Because she knew exactly all the people, she knew the problem they were having. She called up and said, hey Jennifer, you need to talk to Jay over here. Go meet with him. So never underestimate any person in the whole process. So prepare, plan what you're going to say, and plan your follow-up. So often we go to events and we get all these business cards, and what do we do with them? We take them home and we put them in a pile, or we put them on our desk, or they're still stuck in our pockets and we wash our pants. It's happened to all of us. The people you meet, now those are critical people. Follow up with them immediately after the event. I would suggest within 12 hours. Just remember, we've all got 100 messages coming at us. So if you had a conversation, there was something to follow up, let's have that meeting next week, let's talk about how I've helped over here, I'm going to send you an article. Do it very quickly and plan that into tomorrow morning or even tonight when you get back home from this event. And keep in mind first impressions. That's the reason you want to research what is the attire, do people turn up early, how does this all work? because you want to make that first impression very positive. Everybody gets attired well tonight. A couple of little things in impressions, yeah, a few people are saying, yeah. Hey, hold on for a second, do a quick little demonstration with me. So we're here at the networking event. Hi, I'm Jennifer, and you're Joyce, yeah. Right? Because you reach out, and my eye, without looking strange, goes to her right shoulder. Human nature, though, we pick up our name badge with our right hand, most of us. We flop it. Yeah. So just that little thing, putting your badge on the right side, you have a greater chance of somebody seeing your name and hence remembering you.
Conscious decision not to put your badge.
Yep. So everybody, other little thing that always stumps people in business etiquette, which we teach on some of these concepts, is if you're going to an event with someone else. So let's say you and I come together, and I'll just, because this always sticks in my head as an easy example. Come on up. So I'm Sam, and this is Alex, Alexis. So we're here together, right? And this gentleman, we're going to give you a new name. This gentleman happens to be John Chambers, and we're at a Cisco event. And I've had the pleasure to meet John in the grocery store, somehow, magically. So we're here together, we connect, and hi, John, how are you?
Very good, Jennifer, good to see you again.
Wonderful, wonderful. John, I would like for you to meet Alexis. She is our best product manager in the world.
Hey,
Alexis
That's
John.
quite a nice introduction, nice to meet you.
What I did was I made the introduction of John, the more senior person, meet Alexis. So that's what we mean when we say introduce the senior person to the junior person first.
Understanding that you always remember the names of the people you have around.
Well, yeah, I mean, I might remember John Chambers. There's a lot of other people I wouldn't remember. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. But that kind of starting, and if it's a customer, if you're meeting a customer, the customer is John. The customer is the more senior, because you're showing respect. What do you do, though, if you're at an event and you can't quite read somebody's name tag because they've got it in a weird place, and you're with a colleague and you need to introduce them? What do? You can't remember their name. Yeah.
I admit to not being able to remember names, so I've gotten over the problem as in trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I just flat out admit it. I'm like, I know you from XYZ, I'll tell you exactly where I know you from, but I'm really sorry, I just cannot remember names, and I can't. It's
Yeah.
like, I really can't.
Yeah.
And so
Likewise, by the way.
Yeah, I just flat
Likewise.
out admit to it. It's
Yeah.
like,
And that's probably the best approach, is just to simply say, it is wonderful to see you. I know we met a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, 5 years ago. I can't remember your name, and I'd like to introduce you to Alexis. That's a very good way to do that. That's a very good way. The other way, if you're not quite at that level of confidence and the person is convinced they're your best friend on the planet, and I've done this before, is it is wonderful to see you as well. I really want you to meet Alexis. And switch you over, and then Alexis would say, it's great to meet you. Sally, of course. So you can kind of play that off, but nothing at all wrong with saying, totally apologize, great to see you again, can't remember your name. We all have that problem. And handshakes, energetic, strong, don't crush the person's hand, but also don't be wimpy with it. I mean, even with women, that drives me crazy, people that are wimpy with the handshake. Yeah.
Would it be to add display positive attitude, like smiling?
Mm-hmm. That
add to
helps.
it? Helps.
Yeah, smile, make eye contact.
Eye contact.
Eye contact is big, and you know, we talk about some of the networking sins, the dealing out business cards. I mean, we've also seen people that go into an event and they're here talking to you and you're asking questions and they're like looking for somebody else. That's rude. the truth. Have the conversation. It is great to meet you. I don't mean to cut you off, but I really need to go to the registration desk, look for my friend that's coming, whatever you need to do to break away from that conversation. Is there a question? No, just so first impressions, then you carry that through to the conversation starters. Some people really practice that elevator speech, but then have nothing to talk about after they've gotten the speech out. These are just some good questions that are a little bit different than what do you do? What are you looking for? Why are you here? Where else do you go to network?
He's still thinking about his elevator speech.
Yeah, I don't like this picture, to be honest.
I love it.
That looks a bit terrified there, doesn't he? The one I like is, so what do you like best about what you do? I mean, that kind of gives you insight into the person. Now, I like being an engineer because it allows me to be creative, and I get to work at night, so it allows me to ride motorcycles in the morning. It kind of gets you on a new plateau with a person. You get to know them. Because remember, career success is about relationships, and it's the people skills. And part of networking is getting to know that person as a person, not just giving your spiel and trying to get a meeting set up. So think about, and before you go into the event, think about what are the kinds of questions you want to ask people, as well as what is the elevator pitch. Then follow up, follow up, follow up. Contact the person within 12 to 18 hours. If you have anything in your conversation at the networking event that could relate to an article you could send to the person, a link to a website, other information, send that. Send that in that first follow-up. It was great meeting you yesterday evening. Thought about the motorcycle conversation we had and wanted to share this link about Harleys or whatever it is. But something that shows you genuinely want a relationship, not just a business card. So follow up via email. Within a week or two, if it's a valid contact that you want to have immediate connection with, there's nothing wrong with a phone call. And people sometimes today rely so much on email, and a simple phone call. It was good to meet you at the event. I'd love to get together for coffee. I'll check in with you in another month. That begins to build that relationship. Excuse me? Yeah.
I really have that common problem you were talking about. I have these things, I'm sorry to say, I have incredible contacts, and lots of them, and I want to follow up with all of them. And I'm wondering, right now, I want to do it in some sort of mass marketing sort of way, and I don't know how to do it, because I like to do everything individually, but I just don't have the time. I'm overwhelmed by a lack of time.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you can make any comments about how to, send a form that's not a form, to get a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a balance. It's totally a balance. The
I
people
can't
that
do 18 hours always, there's other
Right.
demands coming in.
So the people that are your ideal target audience, that you think could give you business, help you get to that new job, the subset. If you have 1,000 contacts, there's probably 10 that are your highest potential for something in the short term. That's a personalized, targeted approach. And it might even be you block out time on your calendar every Tuesday morning between 9 and 11. I'm going to call those people or send them a personal email. The rest of the people that you want to stay in touch with, I mean, if there's some common theme or some common area of interest, that you could do a newsletter or an email communication around something that is of common interest to them. That's relevant and interesting, but could be done on more of a mass schedule.
Did you use social media in that process?
Yes, in fact, you're perfect to move to social media, because that is a part of the process. Personally, and what we see in a lot of our clients, LinkedIn is one of the best ways to do that. And a few things with LinkedIn is, A, anybody that you meet that you have a connection with. this is my opinion, that you have a connection with and you have a conversation where you'd remember the person. I mean, maybe not remember their name exactly, but you'd have a memory of when you met them and how you met them. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Because one of the key ways of staying in touch with a lot of people through LinkedIn is you can post a status update. And those little status updates go out in a running email from LinkedIn on a weekly basis. So people that may vaguely recall meeting this woman, Alexis, at GABA, if you have a status update of one great project thanks to networking from GABA event, that would catch our attention, right? Because it's something relevant to us. So that's just one way that LinkedIn can be a way of keeping that connection. And we could spend a whole day talking specifically about LinkedIn, but make sure your profile is up to date. Make sure it has those capabilities you bring and the problems you solve. The keywords, because people search under keywords. That needs to reflect what you've done and your skills. And you can really leverage that through things like the questions and answers. Does anybody here use that, where you can put a question out and start a dialogue with everybody you're connected with? In LinkedIn, there's a capability of putting a question. For example, we put a question, a couple years ago we were doing a lot around multi-generational. How do the millennials come into the workplace affect? We put a question out. We're seeing an increase in teamwork challenges because of different generations. Is anybody else seeing that? We had probably 200 responses and dialogues of problems, issues that people connected to me and others in the company were experiencing. Some of which we responded back. We're having a tough communication problem. Our younger generation refuses to have interactive phone conversations with our old generation, and our old generation refuses to do email. That led to business, because we could reach out and say, no, we've solved that problem for Cisco, Wilson Sonsini, Eli Lilly, etc. Maybe we could have a dialogue. So that's a way of continuing that discussion. Answering other people's questions. So LinkedIn can be a really good tool to continue the dialogue and to really promote yourself through your expertise. That's the beauty of the questions and answers and groups. Because you're not going out saying, I'm an expert, but you're going out saying, you have this question and this problem. Here's ways that I would approach it. Maybe we could help each other.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yep.
There's a free version of LinkedIn, but there's also a version you can pay for, which is actually quite expensive. It's what, $100 a month, if I'm correct?
I think that's what it's gone up to.
Is it worth it?
Well, it depends. There are also $25 versions, so it's scaling.
Yeah, the pricing and the value depends. Is anybody here paying for a premium version versus the free? Okay, 5, 6. What do you all think? Is it worth it?
There's a $10 version.
Ah, there's a $10 version. That's probably worth that.
And the main advantage of that is that you can actually see who's looking at your profile.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you see who has looked at you. Yeah.
Five anyway, but you can see the first 5 or something anyway, you don't have to.
No, but you see.
Yeah, you
a
see
lot
You
of
see
everybody.
everybody that's looked at you. Yeah,
And
yeah. Any other comments?
Is the $100 version worth it though? Can we get an answer on that?
Well,
What do
I
you get
think
for it?
they sell basically the in-mails. That means
Yeah.
if you want to make business, you can contact people that you've not introduced yet
Yeah,
and can get in contact with them.
yeah.
So use the network from LinkedIn.
Yeah. Within Next Step, we paid about $30 a month, I think, for the premium version for about 3 or 4 years, until a couple of years ago, said, let's see how it works to not have the premium version. I've never noticed any difference. But the in-mail, I think that is one of the biggest advantages, that you can, in essence, cold email somebody through LinkedIn. How effective that is, it's really hard to say. But
Well,
it's
there's a
probably
job
more
seeker
effective than
version
buying
to it.
names on Jigsaw.
There's a what?
There's a
you-
job seeker version too, which marks that you as a job seeker, so that helps for recruiters, that
That's a good point.
you're gonna pop up higher in the results if you're a job seeker.
That's a very good point. If you're in the job market and you want recruiters contacting you, that's a very good point. Very good point.
And you can search better as well.
Yes.
Mhm.
You can search for people who have special expertise or special skills. You
Mhm.
wouldn't see this as a normal member.
Okay. Better search capabilities. A lot of times people ask us, so from a networking point of view, what's better? Is it better to send an email? Is it better to send a LinkedIn request? Is it better to connect with people on Facebook? The answer really is, it depends. It depends on the person that you've met and their preferred mode of communication. So if you meet somebody at a networking event and there's a genuine interest, a very good final question is, well, how would you like to stay in touch? Should we connect on LinkedIn? Do you want to do a Facebook connection? Do you want me to send you an email? Ask them their preference, because everybody is different. And there's a role for each of the different types of social media. I would always though caution when we think about Facebook and other things, think before you post. It's so simple and obvious, but I think all of us have made those mistakes in the past. So think if you're connecting to managers, if you're connecting to your clients, think about what you're going to be posting to your friends and relatives, because your clients and managers will see that. So overall, networking for success, start with identifying who you are, where you want to go. Based on that, who is it you need to meet? Then based on that, what is your value proposition, that elevator speech? Problems you're solving, how you're solving it, what makes you different. Then go out to the places where your target audience is, network and follow up. And that's really, in many ways, the keys to long-term success. Because it is the relationships that you make and the people you connect with that will be your future bosses, employees, clients, suppliers on all sides. So continue that process. One quick question that you'd have an opportunity to network, because I don't want to forget. Is anyone driving to San Francisco, and would they like a passenger with them at the end of the event?
I'd drive to San Fran.
Okay, you guys should talk to see if there's a connection there. Keep in mind that success in careers, just like success in sales, is patience. Job seeking requires patience. You go out there, you network, you meet people, it's like sowing grass seed. And when you really think there's no hope, that the grass is dead, finished, put rocks on it instead, that is when things do come. So be patient, water, fertilize, don't overwater. Don't email people every day. Hi, remember me? We met at that event. When are we getting together? Be patient about it, but be persistent, because it does take persistence. And the other thing it takes is real commitment. So the last thing I'd ask is just take a minute. Let's just take 1 minute and jot down on your notepad or your iPad or your some kind of pad just a couple of things you're going to do differently as a result of what we've done here tonight. It could be research new networking group. It could be refine that elevator pitch. It could be figure out if you solve a problem and how you do it. You write down your goal, you've got a much greater chance of achieving it.
I have a question. I'm looking for an entry-level position, and if I had opportunities to meet managers or CEOs, it's not easy to keep the contact in the long run. So, what could I say?
Yeah,
How could I keep them interested?
How do you keep the contact on a long-term basis?
Yes, especially with people who are higher level.
Yeah, it's, because they really do have limited time. I would suggest that you really think about what is most relevant to them. And it might be that it's every 6 months. If they're into biking, send them an article. Send them a link to a website. Send them something that is relevant. Or if you're in a business and you're sending email content, just make sure it's relevant. Just a simple little touch to stay on their radar. Don't necessarily expect that they're going to call you every time you do that. You may never hear from them until they have that one problem and they remember, oh yeah, that woman that's been sending me that stuff, she does marketing work or whatever it is. A touch about a personal touch about every 6 months is very okay. A non-personal touch, such as an email or something else, about every 6 weeks, 2 months is considered okay today. You don't want to be too persistent, but that generally is not a problem. Good. Any other questions, comments? Anyone want to share their action plan?
So one thing that I read and was I just wanted to echo because to get your opinion on it is I think prioritizing your network based on 2 attributes. One was how well they know you and how highly they think of your work. And then the other being how influential they can be.
Right.
And that people sometimes spend a lot of time on the other 2 dimensions, which don't have that real sweet spot of those 2 dimensions. So really understanding who knows you well, and then when they give a referral, will be heartfelt.
Yes.
And who can be influential in that as well in what you're trying to accomplish. And how quickly that diminishes as the network extends. So that person makes a recommendation to somebody who then is asked to make a recommendation.
Right.
The half-life of that is very low. Because if they don't know you, it's very hard for them to extend that invitation into someone that's in their trust.
Right, right. I would agree with that. I think where I would suggest the order of priority is of the people you know, who is most influential, who has the contacts, the connections to your desired target audience, and then make sure those people do really understand the value you bring. So look for the who is it, and then the value you bring. It doesn't mean that you can't continue to make new contacts, though, and determine who's influential.
Yeah, but if you don't, if you focus on the lower level to the sacrifice of the top level, you just done this.
Yeah.
Not as high.
Yeah. Think about who to network with and build that relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also a point, in LinkedIn, some people have, thousands of connections, which is becomes ridiculous. Wanted to also show, it's okay to refuse connections that you find not to be relevant.
Right, right. I think that's a very good point. If you don't know the person, do not connect with them. The amount of times people will call you on that, I've had people call me and say, I see you're connected to Joe Smith. Do you really know that person? And my answer 90% of the time, whether I remember their name or not, is yes, because I don't connect with people that I haven't at least had a dialogue with.
But it seems sometimes, But it seems sometimes, people value, or see in the value of the amount of connections you have, which I think it can be detrimental, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you. It depends on the role. If I'm looking to hire a salesperson, I actually do look at how many connections they have, because a salesperson needs to be well connected. If it's an engineer, that's probably not that important. It's the quality.
I had a gut reaction to this almost. I get requests almost, from LinkedIn and Facebook, and people will just say the usual
pre-printed, you know, I'd like to be a friend or something, let's connect. And sometimes I recall them, sometimes not, but I think it's courtesy and leads to better success if you say, well, remember me, or it's Suzanne from XYZ, and would you mind, or would you be interested in connecting? I mean, to me, I have ignored people because of that, because I just find it sort of rude even.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. I mean, if you're gonna reach out to somebody you've met, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt of introduce yourself. Remember, we met at the GABA event, or we were at ABC networking and we had this conversation. Because I have actually, when people have sent me a LinkedIn connection, it's not unusual. I'll say, I genuinely don't remember where we met. And many times they'll say, well, we met last night.
But if you have, like, I have a colleague who did it last October with me. I met him at a conference, and it's funny because I was working with his firm, long story. He gives me his business card, and we exchange business cards, we're colleagues, and he's from Brazil. And so what he did is, before he actually sent me the LinkedIn invitation, he actually sent me an email, you know, it was great to meet you, and by the way, to answer your question, yes, our firm, you know, helps your company. And then I think a week, two, maybe later, I don't know when, I got his LinkedIn invitation. And on top of everything else, he also sends me from his firm a Christmas invitation. So he put me on his mailing list, but having him send an email prior, which I actually personally do the same thing. Just to, if I've never met the person before, that is like even better than just sending out these LinkedIn things. Because yes, he did only send it with the regular pre-printed thing in there.
Right.
But it didn't matter because he had sent me something and I really did remember him.
Right.
And he, you know, said it was great meeting you. By the way, the colleague that, you know, is in charge of your work is XYZ. He actually gave me his name. And because it's such a gigantic firm, but then the LinkedIn, it didn't really matter.
Right.
I mean, that's another way of actually doing it if you want to connect with LinkedIn with somebody that you met at a networking event. So
that's a great idea.
It's like, I thought it was too. I totally, because I didn't even do it. I was like, oh yeah, of course, I'll hit the, you know, yes button or whatever button I have to accept or whatever it is on LinkedIn,
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Excellent. I just realized I almost spaced on doing our drawing. Where did the bowl end up? Ah, thank you. Any other questions as he runs to get that? Is everybody going to go out and network after this? Okay, so there you go. So our so somebody will get the honor of a half-hour coaching session with me or one of our experts, if you will, depending on schedules.